Lacey, sit. Well, it's a pleasure to be here today to talk with you about our work with pet therapy and the American Red Cross. But before I get into more of the benefits of pet therapy, I would like to share with you some of the things we do with our volunteer work at Evans Army Community Hospital. I would like to open up with a short video that depicts what we do at Evans through the Service to the Armed Forces portion of the American Red Cross. Working the Wounded Warrior program is probably the most beneficial for us. You know, it's not always about physical limitations, it's also about mental limitations, and we've had some great stories coming out of that and great achievements that Lacey's done working with the military. Numerous soldiers here really latched on to Lacey. A lot of them had fears of crowds. The patients and the soldiers would just really appreciate it and first would let us know. We don't like crowds, but I just love the dogs. We had several amputees, of course, learning how to walk again, where Lacey's just provides that extra encouragement.
I'll see you later, Lacey.
Just knowing that I'm affecting people, that I can provide that 10 minutes of happiness when they're sad, or a child getting a shot in the immunization clinic. For that 2 minutes, they don't have to think about that pain or the operation they're getting ready to have.
Well, in December, I had got some unexpected medical news and had to come in for a major surgery. And it was phenomenal when Lacey and Thea came into the ICU and they were worth their weight in gold. It made a huge difference. I'm coming in because I'm a dog lover, and I would have never thought to bring my dogs in. You really miss those members of your family. And Lacey came in and she's well behaved, she's a beautiful dog, and she nuzzled right up to me, and quite frankly, the pain just disappeared. They work every single day, much like our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines and Coast Guardsmen, defending our country, and in their off time, take time out to volunteer to make a difference. Fortunately, every now and then we get to say thank you, and that's the best that we can do, but they make a world of difference every single day.
Now, pet therapy can provide a multitude of personal health benefits to an individual, such as emotional, physical, and psychological. There's been a lot of research done on this topic, specifically in the last 20 years, of the effects it can have on a human and their health. For instance, it can help lower blood pressure. It can aid with cardiovascular disorders, specifically in men, and it can also aid with feelings of loneliness, helplessness, and homesickness, such as our airmen coming here for maybe the first time, leaving home, leaving their pets behind, going to basic training. This could be the very first opportunity that they have to be able to pet an animal. Also, our warrior returning over at Fort Carson, we go to the warrior re-engagement programs over there. This might be the first pet that they get to visit as well, reminding them of the pets that they're soon going to get to meet. So how did I get Lacey, and how did I become Lacey's owner? Well, Lacey was adopted. She was adopted through the prison system up in Denver. She was originally donated to that program by a veterinarian to be put into service dog training. Lacey started her training at the men's prison for the hearing impaired. But Lacey, being the smart, intelligent dog that she was not satisfied with doing the duties of a service dog, where a service dog will be called to do one particular task, go sit to the side in a corner, to come back and do another task. Lacey likes constant intervention, constant petting, constant attention. And she wasn't quite right for that program, so she was transferred down to the women's prison down in Canyon City for their Dog Behind Bars program. They also have the K9 Companion Adoption program, which she possibly would be entering into. Now, about 6 months earlier, I had lost a golden to cancer. So a golden I've cherished for over 14 years. So I wasn't particularly in a hurry to get another dog, but I was interested in adopting another dog, specifically not a puppy. I wanted a dog, not to go through that again. So the staff down there knew that I was interested in that, specifically a golden retriever, because of her great demeanor and able to work around families. So they notified me that there was this great golden possibly coming in up for adoption, and to come down to see if I was interested in this dog. Well, I did go down to Canyon City to the prison down there, and they were exactly right. Lacey was a perfect match for me, and I did adopt her down there from the prison system down in Canyon City. So how did Lacey become a therapy dog? Lacey didn't come to me as a therapy dog, but I knew Lacey had this innate ability within her to be able to work with people, and I was hoping to be able to incorporate with the work I do here with the military as well in our local community. So I do want to say that all dogs are not meant to be therapy dogs. A lot of people and patients that we visit often say, well, gosh, I want my dog to become a therapy dog. Well, you can want all you want, but some dogs are just not cut out to be therapy dogs. It takes a great dedication for not only the K9 but also the handler to be a therapy team. So I set out to an institute up in Denver where I actually went through training to become a pet therapy handler as well as a trainer for pet therapy dogs. So Lacey, being the quick learn that she was just about ready within about 3 months. It takes about up to a year for a therapy animal to become ready for their evaluation. They do have to go through an evaluation. It's a pretty rigorous evaluation, which consists of a variety of skills and aptitude tests that they have to master to become certified as a therapy dog. Now, therapy dogs are certified in 2 different areas. Predictable, a predictable dog would be a dog that can go into predictable settings, such as a nursing home. Nursing home's pretty predictable. Just about any nursing home you go in, kind of low-key, quiet, a lot of elderly people, a lot of medical equipment, walkers, canes, wheelchairs, pretty predictable unless there's a medical emergency. Also going into school systems. School's pretty predictable going into a classroom. Now the children are always very excited to see Lacey, but the teacher's there to control the situation. They'll sit in a circle. They'll come up and visit Lacey one at a time, thus being able to do a very predictable setting. As compared to a complex rated animal, complex rated therapy dogs can go into complex settings, never knowing really what's going to happen in a setting. For instance, we volunteer at the Teen Detention Center down in Colorado Springs, a very unpredictable setting. You can go into it 1 minute, it's nice and calm, and we have one patient petting Lacey, and the very next second it could break out into total chaos, fights, anger, throwing things. Kind of unpredictable setting, and Lacey knows I'm there to watch her, to make sure she's okay and that she's going to be taken care of there. Such as an emergency room, very unpredictable. When you go in there, you're visiting the patients, working the crowd in there, making sure all the patients get to visit Lacey. Normal things going on, medical treatments going on in the back, visiting the doctors and nurses. But then it could break out into a very chaotic situation as well, with a lot of rushing around with a medical emergency, ambulances coming in, a lot of medical equipment. So kind of a very complex situation. Lacey is rated as a complex therapy dog, so she is the highest rated of a therapy dog. She's been a therapy dog now for about 6.5 years. So we are registered through the Delta Pet Partner Society as well as American Humane. A lot of people say, hey, do you get to take Lacey home? Lacey is my dog. I own Lacey. Therefore, she is not the property of the Army or the medical institutions or the American Red Cross. She is my dog. One of the events that we went up into Denver, this is depicts, we went up to the Angel of the Battlefield Awards for the Breakfast of Champions that was sponsored by General Mills. As we entered the banquet, we would go down through a series of Red Cross scenes that they set up these actors, starting with Claire Barton, who was the founder of the American Red Cross, going down through all the campaigns and the wars in their period costumes. We got to this one scene, I believe it was either the Korean War or Vietnam. So Lacey immediately went up to this soldier or actor lying on a litter. Obviously he was injured and hurt and he needed therapy. So Lacey, out of instinct, went right up to this gentleman and put her arm over him as to provide therapy. And of course the staff all thought that was just great fun and exactly what a therapy dog should do. Now Lacey is my partner. She is just like a military working dog or a police dog. She is my partner and I'm her partner. We know know we have each other's backs on everything. So how did we become volunteers for the American Red Cross? Well, American Red Cross on its own does not have a therapy dog program per se. We had a hospital commander over at Fort Carson, Evans Army Community Hospital, who really saw the benefits of pet therapy in his program and wanted to involve pet therapy into the treatment and the care for his patients, the families, the airmen, and the soldiers over at Evans. He worked with our local chapter there, the Service for the Armed Forces chapter of the American Red Cross, right inside Evans Army Community Hospital, to affiliate registered therapy dogs through the American Red Cross. So the Red Cross set up some certifications and qualifications, which we met, and we actually became a Red Cross team through the American Red Cross, one of the first teams over at Evans and one of the first teams nationally for therapy dogs. In addition to that, we worked quite frequently with different organizations besides at Evans and nearby Cedar Springs with the PTSD patients. We worked a variety of other events. This is the VA Pueblo's nursing home down in Pueblo, which we go to their annual events, providing care for our veterans down there. There's quite a few veterans enrolled there as well. Numerous parades, Veterans Day parades. I know I've seen a lot of our folks there at the Veterans Day parades as well, which we're always at, as well as the Veterans Stand down in Colorado Springs, just about anywhere that Lacey's needed. And yes, she also met the big guy here up at the Colorado National Guard. They do an event every year, and she became one of the reindeers up there. So this is for the deployed personnel for the National Guard, and we take care of their families just as well there. Well, besides doing all these different events, one thing I did become trained on is disaster relief services for the American Red Cross, really getting into that program. I specialize in shelter management and human relief services, which means I'm trained to go into situations and facilities, assess the facilities, set up shelters in case the community has that emergency need for bedding down people or registering people. So I set off right after my training for disaster relief, and not soon after that the Waldo Canyon fire broke out. So everybody who was here at that time remembers that was a great tragedy for our community as well. At the first, it started off pretty slow with the voluntary evacuations of Chipeta Park, Green Mountain Falls, Manitou Springs. So we set up that shelter for about 350 people, starting off kind of slow with about 20 families that voluntarily evacuated to the shelter. And that unfortunate day in June when the fire blew over into mountain shadows, it became a mass chaotic event for both the American Red Cross as well as this local community. Totally unexpected. Not only did it involve mandatory evacuations, it involved closing down the entire Garden of the Gods, their businesses, and their hotels as well. Now, we were set up at Cheyenne Mountain High School for about 350 people, so we had about 500 people come to the shelter. Not just our residents, but those visiting people from the hotels as well. So I immediately went from shelter management training into working the registration desk, which wasn't really a task I was familiar with, even though I was trained for it. So Lacey, being my team partner that she was right at that registration desk with me, registering those folks coming in for bedding down, or at least registering them for their lost loved ones. People get separated. I don't know where my children are. I don't know where my husband is. We had to leave our home right away. So the American Red Cross does register to help those people meet up with each other. So Lacey provided a lot of support to those people in the shelter, offering the comfort that they needed. You're not allowed to bring your pets into the shelter. Therefore, those children and families were very grateful to have a dog there that they could love on and play with. That would remind them of the dog that they either had to leave at another facility or at home or possibly in a car, so that the comfort was there with Lacey. And unfortunately, the next year, we had to go into the Black Forest fire. Again, being sent into that community crisis mode, the Red Cross going into the Palmer Ridge High School, setting up a much larger shelter there. We were prepared for a little bit more, setting up that shelter for about 500 people. Now, this shelter did not occupy as many residents than the Cheyenne Mountain shelter did because the community was prepared. Unfortunately, they learned a lot from the Waldo Canyon fire, so they were prepared for things to come. They had a plan, which was great on that as well. So Lacey can touch the lives of just about any family there as well. again, going into the shelters, taking care of those families. Again, we were ready with the kennels that they could leave their pets in. However, they were only allowed to see their pets for about an hour during the day. So it became a pretty traumatic thing if you had to leave your dog or your pet behind and you couldn't see that dog. So Lacey brings a lot of joy to many families, to soldiers, to airmen, but not only these individuals. She also brings a lot of joy to the doctors, nurses, and the staffs of the medical facilities and the facilities that we visit. Often these staff members can be seen down on the floor when they see Lacey walking down the hall, kind of coming at their level, getting that 5 minutes of stress relief that they truly need for the intense jobs that they can be in at any facility. So I guess if I had to pick one attribute that Lacey really excels at, is that Lacey can always bring a smile to any face. Thank you. Lacey, come.